I have been searching.
Welcome to Following the Fire, a podcast for Christians who are rethinking their faith and need a safe place to doubt. As we wander through the spiritual wilderness, we want to find and follow God wherever the pillar of fire leads.
And just like God's people in the Bible, we get lost, we miss the point, and we don't have all the answers. But maybe that's okay. We're on this journey together. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Steve.
Even on my heart.
Nathan, it is so fantastic to talk with you. It has been far too long.
It has been a very long time, it feels like. I feel like this is what people who had blogs in the in 2002
in the 1900s.
Yeah. Every blog entry would be like, I know it's been a long time since my last entry. First you have to apologize, and then you can just get into it. But
Or those people on like TikTok or like Reels or whatever on Instagram.
Yeah. Sorry, it's been 3 hours since I posted. I was on a detox and it really worked, and I just feel really guilty though because I was.
Meanwhile, everybody else is like, who are you now?
Yeah, what? Nobody noticed. Nobody noticed you were gone.
Well, we have actually had people contact us and say, "Are you guys gone?" And it's just been exhausting. We were talking about this right before we started recording, but
yeah,
I took on a new role at work, and you did too, and suddenly we're responsible for more people and stuff, and I've been exhausted.
And I have been exhausted.
Yes. So
and I think about this all the time. I see how people could easily have doing a weekly podcast be their mostly full-time job.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And when you already have a full-time job and a life and etc.
Yeah. At the same time, we both understand we're extremely privileged. It's like, oh no, I get a promotion.
Yeah, sorry. They just keep doing that to me, and
yeah, well, it is what it is. How you been?
I've been
broad question.
I have to think back now. I'm always bad at answering how my weekend has been, and now you're asking about. Things have been mixed. I love when the weather starts to get cool, and we're just about to feel that. So I'm excited for that. I don't like when it's dark when I wake up though for work, and that's happening right now.
It is.
Work has been super busy. Life has felt more stressful than normal. And then church has felt weirder than normal. So I'm still trying to figure out all of that stuff. And then every day, just, my current Trump derangement syndrome counter, I look up court results to see what's on the docket for today, because you can see publicly
the docket for Trump,
the Mar-a-Lago investigation.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I check it every day and then read the results, and then every day after that I think, who cares? Why am I checking this? What do I think is going to happen? What am I learning from this? I think I'm the last person that is concerned about that. So that's been my hobby recently. Is like, well, what are the justices saying today?
Yeah, everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah. How have you been?
Good, I guess. Health's kind of stable-ish. Kids are back in school. My son is loving band in high school.
Yeah, awesome. That's good.
Doing the Pep Band thing in the bleachers. That's what they are. And
high school is when it really gets fun in high school.
It does, yeah. And there's a lot of people involved, and it's not like just the nerds. I mean, it's still the nerds, but
that's fun.
Yeah. Yes, but other than that, life just continues to move on and does not stop.
I want my fantasy, I'm sure I'm not the only person, is that I could have an extra day every week. 8 days. Like everyone has 7, but I have 8, and I have the day to myself. And I either get to catch up with the stuff I'm behind on, or I just get to just not do any of the stuff, just exit the flow.
Yeah, that's actually when you say that, I have regained. I feel like I've regained a lot of my week now that I'm not doing absolutely everything for church all the time. Because I didn't realize how much just volunteering here and there just like sucks the life out of your week.
Man, I remember Wednesday nights, especially with one young kid.
Mm-hmm.
I went almost every Wednesday night, maybe every Wednesday night. But I was always so exhausted. I was just there to like drop my son off and then slink down into a pew and just be exhausted.
Right.
And sit there for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, our old church has dropped Wednesday evenings completely. You heard that? I'd never thought I'd see the day. I mean,
that was a pretty old dog, and the question was, do you put it out of its misery, or do you let it die of natural causes? And what happened was, it died of natural causes about 5 years ago, and then they decided to put it out of its misery. You know, they're a little bit late, but interesting choice, good choice. Broken clocks and all
that. You mentioned church has been weird for you. Do you mind explaining what that is, or like another time?
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird because when I explain this to people, I don't feel like my deconstruction happened in college. Like that was my big reckoning, was, senior level Bible classes and the things that you learn in those in a Christian school and being in the Bible Belt. That was the challenge for me.
Yep.
And then in the 2020s to now, or maybe, the 2016 Trump era, I didn't feel like my position was changing very much. It was just the people around me. So,
okay.
Right. I felt like the stable anchor, not the thing that's being tossed around. And I'm sure that if I compared myself to 2020 or 2016, that's not true. I am changing and adapting, but it didn't feel, I wasn't feeling that change. It wasn't like fast for me. But because of what people around me went through, especially my brother, and then seeing the reactions to that.
Yeah.
I think I've developed just a very strong defense mechanism where I don't want to let people in, especially Christians, and that's the whole point of church. Or at least, I've been sporadically, infrequently attending church, and what I get out of it is mostly intellectual, because I'm very comfortable in that space. That's my safe space. But I'm very uncomfortable with making relationships with the people that are in the building. So that feeling of, that's the whole reason, that's what I believe church should be, is the relationship part.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of the scariest to me, has made it hard to put roots down that are meaningful, or kind of walk into a new place with that vulnerability that is what you need to make that kind of church friend.
Yeah, I think Christy and I are experiencing that a little bit too. I mean, even though we've we're members now, and I'm doing a deacon thing, it is weird, because I mean, there's people around me that have all these connections with each other for years, and you feel, I've never been one of the out group, really,
Yeah.
even churches like when I went to college or when we lived in Colorado Springs, I always knew somebody at the church already that pretty well, and they kind of like, shepherded me through the meeting the right people and getting involved in the right things and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
One kind of cool thing at our congregation is we are going through the book, Do I Stay Christian? Which I was shocked to find that we were going to do that. I don't know if I mentioned that in a previous podcast or not, but that's been actually really, really good and kind of, I don't know, what's the word? Affirming, that's the word. Affirming to like what I'm processing through and I'm trying to figure out, and I mean, it's still so far away from getting it all figured out, but I am kind of, I'm getting close to being tired of the deconstruction process. I'm like, this is enough. Thank you. Can I stop now, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice though. Now that you say that out loud, I do think that's a thing that is hard for me is, I want to talk about these things because they're interesting and they feel important. And I am working through what's happening in our society or what's happening to the church. And I don't want to talk to the people I work with about that. I do everything I can to avoid all of the topics you're supposed to avoid at work.
Right.
I don't want to talk to my neighbors about that. But then when I think of going to a church, I think that the people I'm imagining on the inside are pretend and, so they're scarier than in reality, but I imagine them to be these people where that feels actually the least safe to talk about this stuff, especially as a new person. I can talk to you or my family or my wife about this, and like all of the stuff behind
the backstory.
But when I am in the new situation, I kind of want to like be an insider. I want to, usually I want to hide in the background, but I wish I could have those conversations, or even in a new church situation, sit in the back row while other people have those conversations. And it's a scary thing. We've been kind of slowly church hunting, and my wife used like Google or Yelp or something and found a church, and we were driving there, and I just popped it open and looked through a couple of things, and I was like, now I'm okay with going here, but this is going to be like the Trumpiest church we've ever been to.
No way.
So prepare yourself. It was like, the USA America Flag of Freedom Church or something. And, so I imagine the people there, none of this is true. Those people aren't like, they're just regular people trying to do the best thing. But I think the imagined boogie Christian is scaring me away from walking in those doors.
So you ended up not going?
Yeah, we went to another one that we thought might be safer. That was on we passed a sign and swerved into that that one instead. And it was okay. It's so funny. I was triggered the whole worship, and I'm not usually a triggered kind of guy. Like I feel like I can, but I just have, I think, this like weird trauma.
Interesting. Yeah. It's a process, obviously, and it takes longer than we want, but I mean, change is good, I think, as long as you're trying to go the right way. I mean, I think we all are.
My opinion has always been change is always bad and everything always gets worse. So this stuff's pretty pretty hard for me. But speaking of which, it'd be nice if you could just take a quiz and know if you're right or wrong.
Right. Like, to find out your state of theology?
Exactly.
The state of your theology? Yeah. Well, I have good news for you.
Oh, fantastic.
So this what is a survey? It's not really a study. It's this big survey that was done by the Ligonier group.
Okay.
Anyway, it's been kind of going around the social medias and the evangelical world a bit because there are some quote unquote shocking revelations that have come about from this State of Theology survey that they did. And if you want to follow along at home, it's thestateoftheology.com, all one long word. And they did a study that's in 2022, and they did one it looks like they've got data from the UK in 2018. But for 2022, they have 35 questions that they had a bunch of evangelicals essentially around the country take this quiz and survey, and to figure out where they land on certain biblical, quote unquote, biblical beliefs. And it's not, warning ahead of time, it's not a non-biased group.
It is not. No.
At all. Ligonier.org is the folks who kind of oversee this stuff. And that Ligonier was founded by R.C. Sproul. And you may or may not know that name, but R.C. Sproul is, he was a preacher back in the day, and he kind of has a lot of his ideas were the foundation for the Reformed movement, at least the modern Reform movement, which is something, having been kind of sequestered in the Churches of Christ like we were, I didn't know that so many of the, what I called mega churches, and when I grew up, so many of these mega churches are really Calvinists. And I'm like, I didn't get that.
I've run into on the weird part of Christian Twitter that is all of my Twitter experience. A lot of people have said they're Reformed or previously Reformed, and I was like Luther? I don't think that's...
Yeah, I had to look it up. I had to look up what Reformed meant. Because I was with you. I'm like the Reformation, I don't get it. I thought they meant Lutheran. And they kind of do, but they kind of more mean Calvin.
Much more Calvin.
Yeah, much like, and even the idea of original sin. I grew up not believing in the idea of original sin because it's not in the Bible, but these folks do. So I just point that out because the question is pretty. I think the data they got was accurate, but if there's a data explorer thing on this website, and if you click on it and then you click on the question name at the top, it gives you an answer that's like the right answer.
Yeah,
you should have said this.
I thought that was so funny. I looked at this and I'm used to reading. I've read a lot of polls. I'm used to Pew Research, and they do a lot of religious surveys, and they're just like, "Hey, what are people thinking?" And this one is a survey in which then they're like, "Wrong. You answered wrong. There's a correct answer to that. Here's the scripture, and here's what we think the problem is." And that was a pretty funny thing to find out on this. I haven't heard the discussion around it, so I'm kind of coming to this with not a whole lot of preconceptions, but it took me aback.
Yeah, I was with you too. Because like statement 1, for example, is God is a perfect being and cannot make a mistake. So, of those surveyed,
That's 2 questions, by the way. Did you ever have teachers that you get to a question and then you realize like the question is wrong? It's not. Anyways, that happened to me quite a few times in this one.
So like that one, for example, like roughly 30% of Christians surveyed on this said they either somewhat disagree or they are strongly disagree or they're not sure. And the vast majority said this is true. This is a true thing that God is perfect being and cannot make a mistake. But if you click on the little true or false thing, it's like true, and it tells why and then what's in the Bible and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But so the data explorer thing is kind of cool, because you can filter by gender and region and all this kind of stuff. If you're a data nerd, but the reason this kind of started getting a little bit of press in the evangelical world was because some of the questions really shocked, like the way people answered really shocked some of the folks out there. Like, for example, God accepts the worship of all religions, including Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And like 25% of people are like, yeah, sounds right. Of Christians, not just people.
Yeah, and it's not Christians, it's evangelical Christians.
Right, yeah, true.
But I'm trying to get to, what number was that?
3.
Oh, that's why I started too far away. Yeah, there's kind of this report where they're talking about what's troublesome about the trends and what's encouraging about the trends. And that's one of the questions that some of these are really interesting to me because of where evangelicals are split and where they are not split.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really interesting one. God accepts the worship of anyone, including Jews, Islam, and Christians. And evangelicals were very split on that, but very united on certain other topics.
Yeah, yeah. Like the original sin thing. 71% of the evangelicals they quizzed believe that we are born innocent in the eyes of God, so not original sin.
Right.
And 21% disagree. But I think if you look over the data explorer, it's number 15. According to these folks, that is false. You are definitely born with sin.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it's interesting the balance here. But anyway, what I want to do is I want to go through the questions and we can discuss them as we go. And I'm going to take the test as we go.
All right.
Survey. And hopefully you will not be concerned for my soul afterwards.
And I'm kind of like in the baking show, I already have the fully formed cake in the oven just waiting to go. So I can't succumb to peer pressure here and change my answer to the correct answer. I didn't check what the correct answer is, but I'm pretty sure I did get the correct answer 100. I think I scored 100. I think I got it correct.
You got it all right?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, we'll see. No judgment though, Nathan. So statement 1, God is a perfect being and cannot make a mistake. And of course I'm going to overthink this like you did. Yeah.
And I'm watching you, and you know that I answered, so that all of this is skewing the results. This is not a scientific approach that we're taking. This is not a double blind. It is a single blind. You're blind and I am not.
Well, at least, yeah. Okay, so I would have strongly agreed with that statement. My younger Steve would have strongly agreed. But I'm now kind of more in the direction of not sure. I'm going to say a 4 out of 5. Between not sure and strongly agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the 1% of evangelicals that strongly disagreed. They're like, God can do anything. That's what I think they're saying to this. God can make a mistake if he wants to. He's God.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's like, can God
make a rock too big that he can't lift?
Yeah. They're like, yeah.
I remember like just baking my noodle in church camp when I was a kid. Whoa, I don't know. Okay, there's one true God in three persons. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. I'm going to strongly disagree with that because I'm a heretic. Do you want to like share your answers along the way, or?
Yeah, I'm trying not to influence, but you know, I'll speak out when I'm just like completely out. So far, I have not strongly agreed. I have somewhat agreed to both of these. I was like, yeah, probably. So
God accepts the worship of all religions. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we're to the weird one.
Yeah, God accepts the worship of all religions. It's
a bad question again. If they said all religions, which includes Scientology, it includes, you know, and then they just happen to mention the top three kind of like bona fide ones, you know.
Right. I mean, yeah. See, I was going to say I disagree, but now, or that I agree, not strongly, but I was going to agree.
I'm already influencing.
But then you said Scientology, and that's I don't know, that's a business. Can we say that without getting sued?
Is evangelicalism not a business?
Oh, touche.
Yeah, that was kind of cynical.
Well, I'm gonna answer this as though Scientology doesn't exist, or like
Christianity, Judaism, and Islam is what everyone's thinking.
Baby eating stuff. But yeah, if we're just talking about those three, I'll say I agree, sort of.
Okay. I said I don't know.
Yeah. I truly I don't know, but I see now I'm feeling bad. I should go back. No.
See, I told you I'm going to influence you.
God learns and adapts to different circumstances. Sure, I don't know. I'm not sure. Biblical accounts of the physical bodily resurrection of Jesus are completely accurate. This event actually occurred. So that's two questions again.
Such a bad question. That is two different statements.
Because they can't be completely accurate. Right. They can't be completely accurate because they disagree with each other in several ways.
Yeah.
Like, was there one angel? Was there two? When were and all this stuff?
The questions are problematic. But not to evangelicals.
Right.
Because I can see the responses of evangelicals. So
I know the quote unquote right way to answer this if I was an evangelical. But I am not sure that the event actually occurred the way it's described. So I'm just going to say not sure again.
Strongly or somewhat?
I'm just going to right in the middle. Not sure.
Okay. I said somewhat disagree.
See, I'm between a 2 and 3, but
this was a strong evangelical 99% agreed. Completely accurate event actually occurred, and then 1% was not sure, and 0% said somewhat disagree. So we're out of the camp on that one.
Yeah, I think
we were disagreeing with different things, though. You were disagreeing with this event actually occurred, and I was disagreeing with completely accurate. I was like, it's not completely accurate.
Well, it's definitely not completely. I think I was averaging the two.
Okay,
so sure. It's definitely not completely accurate, but I'm not sure if it occurred, so I'm going to go right in the middle. Jesus is the first and greatest being created by God. I strongly disagree.
They didn't teach us this in Church of Christ school. We didn't focus on this one.
Well, it goes back to like the Nicene Creed. You know, like what is the nature of Jesus? Yeah. Is he God? Was he made by God? Is he in himself the stuff of God?
First and greatest?
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing that how did the evangelicals answer this one?
They're not evenly split. There's definitely there's three out of four would agree with that statement.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, orthodox of that, the answer to that question is definitely not, because Jesus is not understood to be created at all.
Begotten, not created, not made. Right. That's in the Nicene Creed. Begotten,
right, right. So he's the same stuff of God that is like an amoeba splits or something. I don't know.
Yeah, if you did spectral analysis.
Exactly. Jesus was a great teacher, but he was not God. Question 7. I strongly agree with that. God created male and female. Is that exclusive? Or, I mean, he did.
Do you want me to tell you the true or false answer?
Oh,
it's a bad question.
I'm sure. I'm gonna slightly disagree.
I said strongly agree. I was like, yeah, that's in there. Both. Created them all.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm gonna say with slightly disagree, just because I know what they're asking.
I know what they're I know what they're getting at. Yeah,
they're being tricksy with these questions. The Holy Spirit is a force, but is not a personal being. I'm going to disagree with that. Because I think it's neither one.
Yeah, okay. I said I do not know. That's out of my...
I'm going to say I strongly disagree, because the Holy Spirit is just a descriptor of a spirit of a holy God. It's not a thing. It's not a person. It's like saying... You have a nice, calm spirit, Nathan. It's not. I'm not talking about a different being. Yeah, I'm not talking about a different person.
And evangelicals, so many of these evangelicals, this is not an even split, but it's a 30-60 split.
Yeah, probably because they're such bad questions. Now that I'm looking at these,
it's because they're bad questions. Yeah.
The Holy Spirit gives a spiritual new birth or a new life before the person has faith in Jesus Christ.
This is the worst question, and this is just statistically, and I am a data nerd, this is statistically the worst question that they ask.
I'm going to disagree. The Holy Spirit can tell me to do something which is forbidden in the Bible.
This was my favorite question. I took a screenshot of this one.
Really?
Yeah, I'll see if you answer it correctly.
You tell me to do something which is forbidden in the Bible. I'm not sure.
I said strongly agree.
Oh.
Because there's all kinds of stuff forbidden in the Bible, and all of these stories where in Acts, I'm thinking about Acts.
Okay.
They're like, dude, go eat that thing. Go meet with that person. That's true. Tell that eunuch. It's like that's like explicitly forbidden in the Bible. I know they're not getting at that. Let's see, true or false. No, can't, cannot, will not, would not, should not, wouldn't tell you
with a fox. That discounts the possibility of any further. Well, no, I was going to say any further revelation, but then the further revelation wouldn't disagree with itself because God doesn't change according to them.
Well, yeah, you start with the idea that none of it conflicts and that there isn't a difference or process of change, and so that's how you know that something is true or not. I feel like this is the one that people are prepared for, that nobody's ever going to have to run into. Like, hey, what if you think it's God talking to you, but he's telling you to murder? Like, be prepared. If it's not in the Bible, that's not God. And that has never come in handy in my life once.
No.
The Holy Spirit has not tried to trick me into eating shellfish or
cheating on your taxes.
Breaking the Sabbath.
Yeah. Okay, question 12. Everyone sins a little, but most people are good by nature. I'm going to agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Not strongly, but I'm...
Very, very even split in evangelicalism.
Yeah. Even the smallest sin deserves eternal damnation. Strongly disagree with that.
Yep.
Speaking of that, there's this whole thing right now. So, the Dahmer series came out or whatever.
Yep.
And
is he the Church of Christ guy?
Yes, he is.
Okay, it's us. It's our fault.
It's our fault. Well, I guess in the I haven't seen it because I just can't watch it. But I guess in the show, he is converted by some priest, and it's like with like a collar and the whole 9 yards. I'm like, this was I met the guy at Oklahoma Christian University who baptized Jeffrey Dahmer. He's like, yeah, my buddy Jeff, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like country guy, you know. But
so the Church of Christ folks are like, give us credit where credit is due. It was us.
Right. But the conversation that's been going on around this in the deconstruction TikTok world is everybody's like up in arms, like how in the world can they think that this like that he's going to heaven, and somebody who is like the best person and does everything he can to follow God, but like went to the wrong church building is going to go to hell? Yeah, it's a valid question. I mean, it's hard to square that with logic, but I mean,
kind of like, do you think of God as a lawyer?
Right.
Yes or no? Can he get off on a technicality?
I try. I would say no, but I think the way I was raised, it was kind of like that. It was the theme of a courtroom was all over the place.
Yeah. In
the way I grew up. But yeah. Anyway, that's another big question about how that works. 14. God counts a person as righteous not because of one's works, but only because of one's faith in Jesus Christ.
So, like, if you're a serial killer, that's your works.
Right. See, so many of these questions, I'm the wrong person to ask these days. I'm just so far off the rails. I'm going to disagree. Number 2.
Yeah, I somewhat disagreed. Mostly because I don't think that's what Jesus thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they've got a true or false. This is, you know. But what did they say? Grace alone and Jesus Christ alone. Yeah, makes sense. But Jesus was like, meh, or, you know, did you feed me and clothe me and visit me in prison?
He literally said, you know, you said to me, Lord, Lord, and you didn't help the poor and those in the prisons and stuff, so get away.
Yeah. Some of the things in these questions, I'm going to come back to this later, but I wish there was more room for when they see that half of evangelicals are split. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's split half and half. They just think half of them are wrong. Not, right. Oh, you know.
Not that there might be some subtleties.
Room, yeah. Or we wrote a bad question. Man, that's...
Everyone is born innocent in the eyes of God. I strongly agree. Even though that's wrong, according to them. Yeah. The Bible, like all sacred writings, contains helpful accounts of ancient myths, but is not literally true.
Bad question.
Yeah. I'm going to...
Is the Bible true or false?
See, what do you mean by true?
Yeah. What do you mean by the Bible?
Yeah, right? I mean, knowing what they're asking, I'm going to say I'd strongly disagree. Wait, I'm going to strongly... Yeah, I'm sorry. I strongly agree. Strongly agree. Yeah. The Bible is 100% accurate in all that it teaches. Disagree. Modern science disproves the Bible. Strongly disagree.
This is a great question because you can get it wrong, so wrong that you end up on the wrong side of the question.
Explain.
You can say, like, it sure doesn't. The Bible disproves science. Or you could be like, no, they agree. And you just answered the same as each other. I think that's hilarious. Yeah. Those two people agree. Sure don't.
Well, I don't think it disproves the Bible. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I said strongly disagree. But that was the biggest evangelical response as well, was strongly disagree.
Yeah? Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I think...
Oh, no, that makes sense. But from the wrong side, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, God chose the people he would save before he created the world. I'm not a Calvinist.
It's a Calvinist, very Calvinist.
Strongly
question.
disagree with that one.
Very split.
Hell is a real place where certain people will be punished forever. Strongly disagree. There will be a time when Jesus Christ returns to judge all the people who have lived. I disagree.
This is huge agreement in evangelicalism, 90%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, just by saying that I disagree with that at all, I mean, there's there's complicated reasons why, but just saying that I would be kicked out of most churches.
Yeah, I said, I don't know.
Yeah. Worshipping alone or with one's family is a valid replacement for regularly attending church. Yeah, I agree.
Yep, this is very split in evangelicalism.
Yeah.
Very split.
I mean, like you were saying earlier, there's massive benefits to being at church, but
yep.
Christians should be silent on the issue of politics. I strongly disagree, which is strongly different than I used to believe. I used to think it totally should stay out of politics.
You think they should be silent or not silent? You should think they should not be silent.
You're right. So the statement, Christians should be silent, I disagree with that.
This is another one where you can circle so far that you end up agreeing with people that agree completely. This one almost exactly matched evangelical, not evangelical. The numbers are identical.
Really?
Which I think is interesting.
Wow. Every Christian has an obligation to join a local church. Disagree. Here, we're getting near the end. Sex outside of traditional marriage is a sin. Ugh. I mean, traditional marriage, it's like people saying
question.
Right. Yeah. It's like people saying the biblical model of marriage. Okay, like which one? When Moses had several wives, or when Abraham let his wife gave his wife to the Pharaoh to have sex with, and I mean, it's all over the place. And they didn't have marriage ceremonies. I'm gonna say I'm either not sure or number two. I'm gonna say number two. I disagree. Abortion is a sin. Well, I disagree. Gender identity is a matter of choice. Strongly disagree.
Question.
Yeah.
This one is very split in evangelicalism, but I think it's because, I think they were like,
it's politically loaded.
It is politically loaded, yeah.
The Bible's condemnation of homosexual behavior doesn't apply today. Okay. I don't believe the Bible condemns homosexual behavior.
And that's what applies today.
Right. But I know what they're going at. I'm going to strongly disagree with that. God is unconcerned with my day-to-day decisions. I don't know anymore, to be honest.
I was strongly disagree. I was like, I think that's what he cares about. My day-to-day yep. This other stuff, no. Premillennialism.
Yeah. The Bible has the authority to tell us what we must do. I disagree. Religious belief is a matter of personal opinion. It is not about objective truth. That's another two-parter.
Yep.
I'll kind of agree with that. The Bible is the highest authority for what I believe. I disagree. Well,
nobody in the entire... They must have not given this question to people. Nobody in the entire survey agreed with me on this question. It was a 0% uncertain.
Really?
In both things. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say I disagree, but I don't know, because part of the problem is I don't know what I believe anymore. It's very important for me to personally to encourage non-Christians to trust Jesus Christ. So it's important for me to be an evangelist.
Yeah.
No, I disagree. Jesus Christ's death on the cross is the only sacrifice that could remove the penalty of my sin. I'm going to say disagree. Because
some of these are pretty deeply into Calvinist belief, where like I feel like if you grew up that way, you'd know more about some of those.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm waffling on this one is that I don't know what sin means anymore. I mean, that may sound stupid, but you know what I'm saying? It's like
I've got that in my notes. Yep.
Yeah. And the last one. Only those who trust in Jesus Christ alone as their Savior receive God's free gift of eternal salvation. I strongly disagree.
Yeah,
okay.
I strongly disagree with that as well. All right, that was all of them.
Yep.
I think I'll actually jump just because we just brought it up. So I was going to ask you, what is your biggest heresy?
Biggest heresy, according to the Nicene Creed or Church of Christ or the Catholic Church?
No, just like it's the one that
one that feels most heretical.
The one that feels the most heretical.
That I don't believe that Jesus was literally deity. I don't think Jesus was God. I think that there are lots of ways that was misinterpreted. I think the things that were written about him were like the you don't see any hint of that until you get to John, which was written much later, and arguably not by John. And I mean, I could go on with reasons why, but there's also the fact that when it says that he is the fullness of deity in bodily form, is that one of those epistles? Galatians, Colossians, I believe. Anyway, where it is. When it says that he's the fullness of deity in bodily form, that's always used to say, well, he is obviously God. But the way that the Jewish mind, the Jewish belief would approach that is that he was carrying the authority of God, even though he was a man, and that he like
the Son of Man idea.
Yeah, kind of like an ambassador goes to another country. They are the mouthpiece of that country, and they're referred to as that country sometimes, even though it's not literally the country, or they're not the president. But what they say is, you know what I mean?
How does that dive down this rabbit hole and then come back? But how does that change what you think about Jesus or his teachings or how does that change it for you?
I actually think that it makes the idea of him dying, etc., for our sins and all that, I think that makes it much more impactful in my mind. I think the
there's
fact
not
that
a reset button for, like, just kidding.
Well, there's that, and there's also, all my life I've always thought, was Jesus cheating? Because, in Hebrews, he did nothing wrong. He was unblemished and all that. He was perfect, never sinned. And that's the example for us. I'm like, well, how is that supposed to be an example for me if he's God and...
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, if it's somebody
Superman never struggled with track and field. It's like, yeah, he's Superman.
Right, exactly. I mean, he could have run slower, but so I mean, I know, and there are lots of. I mean, I know all the arguments both directions on this one.
Yeah,
but to me, it makes it if Jesus was a person who, actually had to struggle with this stuff and had like me, who went through the difficulties and stayed true and stayed faithful, that means a lot more to me than someone who, they knew it was going to happen. They're God. They could have, like you hit the reset button at any time.
Right.
There's no stakes.
Yeah.
So.
It really is that's why I don't like superhero movies, is like the stakes don't ever feel real. They feel too big.
Yeah.
My biggest heresy is, and you pointed it out, is just the way that I think about sin. My entire paradigm for what sin is doesn't jive with how barely contact with Christian people think about sin, and Christian people think about sin, which is like, if you go on Christian Reddit, 8 out of 10 answers are, is this a sin? If I do this with my girlfriend, is that a sin?
Right. How far can it go?
And it's like, I'd recommend you log off of Reddit for 3 years, as a 17-year-old, and come back later. But I feel like, and in this survey, there was like sex outside of traditional marriage is a sin.
Yeah.
Abortion is a sin. But often just this idea of what is a sin and what is not a sin, I think that's almost always the wrong question.
I agree. Is
this a sin? Just stop it. And when Jesus gets asked about that, I think that he thought the same thing. And that knowing what the list of things is missing the point. And I think why it's so heretical is that's maybe what the Church of Christ does the best, is knowing what is and is not acceptable.
Knowing where to draw the line.
In the family, in whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of think, like, who cares? Is that the point?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think knowing what is a sin or is not a sin gets you any closer to God. And it takes away, it gives you a checklist and a clipboard. And I don't think that's the right approach to God. I don't think it's like, yes, no, you've got a 98%. But that's what I think so many Christians believe. And then that has bled out into the society, into what, if you looked at the Simpsons, that's how I see what non-Christians think of us. That's what they think it is there's a scale, and there's sins piling up on one side, and there's good deeds or something piling up on the other. And then it's just, is the balance correct? And then you get judged one way or another. And Christians, or in fundamentalist Christianity, it's kind of like, if there's one sin on one side, then that's the whole thing. But when Jesus comes in, there's not a change to how people deal with sin. It's still just the same list. And the same, okay, now it's still just the same list. So
yeah,
I think they see Jesus as a sin relief aid, instead of Jesus telling them, no, you should be focusing on people. It's about your priorities, not about the laws. Get your priorities to line up with my priorities. They're not the same as yours.
Well, and I've been really rethinking the concept of sin in general, because the more I look into things, I think that I don't believe that there is a hell anymore. I really do believe that that if there is something after this, then we're going to it's either that there's no hell, or that hell is the annihilationist idea, where we're just destroyed and there's no more.
Yeah.
The concept
Not
of
eternal conscious torment.
Right. The whole concept of God doing that, and like the roasting you over a fire for eternity, That is not. That doesn't sound like a loving God. But I mean, just think of how you would treat your kids. You might discipline them, but would you roast your son over a fire the rest of it forever, and that he just feels it forever if he like used instruments in worship one time?
Yeah, I'm definitely a dabbler in universalism, but mostly just in, I've kind of come to, I'm much closer to John Lennon than I thought I would ever be, where I just kind of think if I pretended that didn't matter, how do I live my life now? But I have noticed this, if you've been steeped in that belief your whole life and you're on the correct side, the side that goes to heaven, there's almost like this desire to justify, or I don't want to classify it too severely, but there seems to be a side that needs for it to be true that the other side is tortured forever and deserves it.
It kind of makes you feel better.
I mean, it doesn't make me feel better, but it's very dehumanizing, and it makes the other side into, not only do I disagree with you, or do I think what you're doing is wrong, but God hates you, kind of.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get what you deserve, and so why should I? This is not what people say out loud, but I just wonder if that's why should I treat you any better? You're the enemy. You're going to get what you deserve then, and I should give you what you deserve now. And that it's weird how the fruit of that theology can turn into that. That I don't think most people think about that, but
yeah, it's also the situation, the issue of how I'm starting to think about my faith and a lot more pragmatically than I used to, because for so long my Christian faith has been a sin management faith.
Yeah.
The gospel of sin management. And when you do that, it's a very self-centered idea, because it's all about you getting to heaven. And sure, you're supposed to go to teach other people, but why are you going to teach those people? Because you're told to, and if you don't, then you're sinning, and it's all about you again. And I know there's some, there are edge cases, but when you're focused on...
It's very self-centered and individualistic, and I think it's easy to be caught up then in your own failings.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend any time or have any responsibility towards people around you.
Right. When you're focused on getting to heaven, then also this earth doesn't matter. There's people around me. If they're going to go to hell, I guess it's too bad, And I don't care about the environment. I don't care about lots of things, because it's all going to go away and be restored, quote unquote. And so I think that's a really dangerous path to go down.
That's part of what I mean too by kind of my heresy around the idea of sin is I think it actually, if sin is falling short in some way, is driving a sin, is using gasoline a sin, is living above the median income a sin, is, and I think just the answer to that's not very helpful for, it doesn't mean what I think a lot of people mean by that. It's more like, it's easier to think, how can I live in a way that I'm glorifying God, or how can I reflect God's priorities in my life? And then who cares what is a sin? Like that.
Yeah, I do. I remember I mentioned a while back the John Philip Newell book called Sacred Earth, Sacred Soul. He came to speak at our church in May, and what he was talking about in his presentation when he was here is I think somebody asked him about sin, or he was talking about it in his talk. But he was basically saying that to him, what his understanding of things is, if if the creation is sacred, and God has imbued himself into all things, and people are sacred, our souls are sacred, then sinning is when you're doing harm to something that is sacred. That was an interesting thought.
I wish that question had been in the survey. I think that's something that was missing from maybe my theological formation was, do you believe that people of all age, gender, creed, background, whatever, deserve a special kind of respect because they were created in the image of God?
Mm-hmm.
Or, do you believe in the concept of imago Dei, and that's what, and what do you do as a result of that? I think that's missing from.
And I also like, what I really liked about his view of things is the earth is part of that.
Yeah,
so if you are mistreating and hurting the environment, if it's truly something that God made, and then it's a holy thing, then why are we treating it like crap? Just like you wouldn't treat a dog. Like, people who treat animals horribly, like I can't abide that. It's like,
right.
I will have nothing to do with you if you are an animal abuser, because there's something in people that they would rather, like, there's a website, it's something like along the lines of does the dog die at the end.com or something like that. It's like all these listings, and it's just like yes, no, how many animals die in this movie, and there's no concern about how many people die. I thought that was funny.
Right.
But does the dog die? And so people are very concerned about animals. We have this drive and this need to take care of the earth. I mean, hey, it's in Genesis 1 or 2 about our job is to take care of the planet. So if we're not doing that, then we are sinning. But because we're destroying something and treating it as filthy, the thing that is holy, and treating other people is the same way. That way,
it's disposable. It's going to burn up. Get a new one.
Right.
It's a spoiled kid. It's like if you break your Nintendo, you get a new one.
And I used to think that last thing on this point, I used to think that it didn't matter what your concept of the end times was. That, who cares if it's 1,000 years, whatever, what this means, blah, blah, blah. Just, it's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to happen. But when you think that it's all going to burn away and it's pointless, then it does impact things.
Yeah, your theology. I'm the same way. I don't think it matters for where you end up, but it can influence how you live and how you treat people.
Right.
For sure. So I was going to say, one thing that I want to point out that jumped out to me, I was looking, and this has been a theme in our show, obviously, is I was looking at the gray answers, which is I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I did, I dove into the data and just looked at evangelical versus not. And surprise, surprise, evangelicals are pretty sure of stuff. Even when, and in fact, there was no, let me make sure I'm right about this. Okay, I'm not good. Evangelicals, on almost every question, were more certain, meaning nobody chose the I don't know answer,
right,
than the average on every question, even when the evangelicals were completely 50-50 split.
Really?
So they were just certain on one way or on the other side of the issue. And people still answered I don't know who are evangelical, but statistically significantly less than who are not, which I think means something. But then I dove into like demographics, age, college, education or not.
Right.
And I thought this was really interesting. I don't know what it means. I'll see if you can synthesize it for me.
Okay.
So one of the categories was income over $100,000 or more. So $100,000 or more income. So if you were an evangelical, who makes $100,000 or more, on every question, the uncertainty drops compared to the typical population.
The
or
uncertainty
evangelical.
drops?
So certainty increases, less uncertainty. So evangelical,
So the more money you
making a lot
make,
of
the more you're sure.
the more you make, the more you are sure. Okay, and sometimes it's significant, like uncertainty drops by more than half. Just comparing evangelicals to evangelicals. So the more you make, I guess the more you know, and right. So
Yeah.
that would make sense. But then I looked at, if you're not evangelical and you make more than $100,000, your uncertainty increases. Isn't that weird? So rich evangelicals are like sure of themselves, sure of their place in the world, and they know the answer to the theological questions. And I think there's something to, like, they are living out the dream of health and wealth, and they deserve to be where they got, and all of that. And for some reason, it's not even not Christian, but not evangelicals, on the majority of questions. So on every question, if you're evangelical and make more than that, uncertainty goes down. But the other population, the uncertainty mostly, the majority of the time, goes up. And I just think that was interesting.
It is. I kind of played around with the education filter to see what that did. And it didn't seem to do much.
I found not much until you said, like, no high school. And then you kind of get...
Yeah. Yes, okay, that's true.
You do kind of get...
Seems like a lot more certainty around the things that they're supposed to be certain about, according to the church.
Yeah.
Just so more falling in line with the status quo.
Yeah, that's the thing I did right after income, is I thought, oh, maybe that correlates to education, and that if I chose like a high education, that would show me the same results, but it did not.
Interesting. Did any of the responses surprise you, like from the data that they show?
I mean, I was so distracted by the questions. Give me a second. Yeah, actually, so I was suspicious of the results in some cases because they do this survey every 2 years. There were a few questions where the numbers jumped by more than 10% in 2 years. So one was Statement 16, the Bible, like all sacred writings, contains helpful accounts of ancient myths, but is not literally true. And in 2 years, it changed from evangelicals 15% agree to 26% agree. And I just thought, what changed in 2 years around the idea of sacred writings and ancient myths that moved the needle by 10%, unless there's a insecurity in the world of evangelicalism that makes you want to cling to certainty. I thought the survey said there are concerning trends and encouraging trends. So the concerning trends were the exclusivity and deity of Jesus Christ has gotten better in evangelicalism. The historicity and divine nature of Scripture has gotten better in evangelicalism. Better, according to their standards. Objective truth, gender identity, and homosexuality. And I kind of wondered if, what the reasons behind that might be, if it's kind of a pendulum swing or a doubling down, or even just the people who claim to be evangelicals are self-selecting out of that group. I was that God accepts worship of all religions. I just assumed it was weird that was one of the most split ones in evangelicalism. Jesus was a great teacher, but was not God, changed 13% in 2 years among evangelicalisms. Evangelical.
That's surprising.
Yeah, and so one thing I just thought is like, are we asking different people the question? When you say, "Are you evangelical?" Did something happen from 2020 to 2022 that different people say yes to that? And I would say yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So do the trends over time? Do they? Are we tracking the same people? I guess.
Right.
But also, when you see, Pew Research does this, probably more, I don't know, more accurately, or they definitely have better questions, I would say.
Right. More rigorous.
But I do see, like, the trends over time that they're seeing, if they are asking the same question and they're seeing a gradual change, then are their conclusions so far-fetched? So like they're worried about the state of things, or when things improve, they're celebrating that. But it's interesting to think about what does that mean, that it is a gradual change over time over an entire population of people.
Yeah.
And I guess mostly I think, well, I've changed on something, but it feels like evangelicals have stayed the same, or they say things like, "Oh, there must be bad teaching in this area," but I kind of wonder what's actually influencing that number. And of course, as a now heretic who's been mostly attending mainline churches, the fact that they just distinguish between evangelical and everybody else seems problematic to me.
Yeah.
Because there was a whole lot of non-evangelicals answering things like, "Yeah, I believe in the resurrection of Christ." So I was like, that means you're a Christian. So
Christian's not synonymous with evangelical.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that they didn't care to make a distinction.
I see. Yeah.
Are you a Christian? Are you evangelical Christian? And then are you neither?
Yeah, and I read stuff like this, like, surveys come out like this once in a while, or studies or whatever. And like there's a Pew Research thing from last month in September 2022 about how in 50 years Christianity is going to be the minority in America.
Yeah, I saw that.
Just with the direction things are going. And it's like, I see this stuff and it's like, well, what do I do with that? Does it change me? Is it just interesting information? And I guess you don't have to do something with everything you hear, but I don't know. To me, at this point, it's kind of like interesting information just to see how the direction things are going. I'm sure it's a panic mode for some people, but
yeah, I do think the older you get, the more this becomes the sport, is like the things are going in the wrong direction. The youth are worse than the middle-aged people, are worse than the older people, and it's all going wrong.
Yeah, speaking of that, I did go through the data and I was looking at the age gap differences, and it's what you'd expect with the folks who like gender identity, for example, and homosexuality. Those questions heavily skewed toward the older people not liking those things, right. And younger people, no problem. And so there's always going to be some of that, and I don't know. I'm just more I'm getting more to the point where I'm realizing and in my understanding of things, which is not perfect, of course, but it's just that there seemed to be a lot that, I don't know, things seem to be broader than I thought they were. And I feel like I've almost spent my life telling God who he is, or who they are.
Yeah.
And not, I don't know, not listening is not the right word, but not concerning myself with who I am and how I'm helping other people. It's just more, I guess I'm ready. Let me back up. I'm ready to let God tell me who he is, as opposed to trying to figure out who God is and tell God who they are. And because I don't know. And the more I learn about the way, like, even modern Christianity has come about, the less confidence that I have that so much of it wasn't just done by men purely for control reasons or power or whatever. And so, I don't know. That's my statement earlier in the episode of, I'm not really sure what I believe anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just trying my best.
I felt a similar thing when I went through this, because I remember in youth group, we did take, Pew Research sent us, in church we took a poll, and we were teenagers, and we kind of got a speech ahead of time that, like, hey, we're going to be answering as the Bible believing, church attending ones, and so get the answers right or whatever.
Yep.
And I remember as I was taking that, I took it as if there is a correct answer to those questions, and I was looking for, okay, what is the correct answer to these questions? And then when I saw if I saw the results, I would say, oh, I can't believe 70% of people didn't get the right answer, or I can't believe the direction that people are heading that are on the wrong side. And I would have been fully confident if the last question was, how many of these did you get correct? I would have said all of them.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at this, I knew what, the questions were problematic, but when I placed my answer down, I did not feel like I got the answer correct. And the other people who didn't answer the way that I answered did not get it correct. I still sometimes ridicule people who believe differently than me, or think that they're wrong or stupid or selfish or they're not thinking. But I'm definitely slowly learning. If I've been wrong 10 times in a row, and every time I thought I was absolutely correct, maybe I should just stop thinking I'm absolutely correct, stop concerning myself with that, and be a little bit more curious about, why do people believe differently than me? What are their perspectives? And can I learn? A thing that's very new for me is just, can I learn from this person? Even if I know that they believe things that I'm completely opposite on, or they've done something wrong at work, or they look like the wrong kind of person. If I approach that situation and think maybe they know something that I don't, the answer is always that they do.
Yeah. Curiosity is something that I'm really trying to work on having more of, and being less certain. I think there's value in being less certain and just trying to be humble about it, because, like you said, there's so many different ways to approach things in the world, and so many different people and perspectives. We can always learn something, and being curious about how they got to that point, or why they believe what they believe. I've learned a heck of a lot more in the past couple of years doing that than I feel like I've learned in a lot of ways before.
Yep.
And you're a nicer person that way. I mean, nobody minds asking questions, but if you just like come in, guns a-blazing, you're doing this wrong, then you're not going to be much of a friend.
Your world definitely gets a lot bigger when other people have value, even if they're wrong, or there's a possibility that other people are right or have something to teach you.
Well, good news is you and I are right most of the time, right?
That's why people listen, is just to hear the correct opinions, align their views to ours so that we will accept them, because if they're not 100% aligned, we absolutely will not. And yeah, if they're not sure, we can just tell them what to believe.
Yep. Being told you're wrong is love. And that's what we're here for. Well, I better head out. Thanks for going through that with me.
Yep. That was good. I enjoyed that.
Stuff.
I'll be sending my edits and suggestions to their editorial board for next time. Get some better questions in the survey.
Yeah, hey, you might want to hire a statistician next time. Yeah. Who writes non-biased questions.
Exactly. Yeah, and one question per question. If it's true or false. Good grief.
Well, at least I passed the, or I failed, whatever you want. Yeah, I failed the MIA Reformed Evangelical.
I thought at the end it was going to tell me, like, wrong. and give me a tract to help me out.
You are this percent certainly going to hell.
They just left me hanging. They were just like, we're not even going to tell you how wrong you are. Maybe I'll get an email.
Did I pass?
I think I gave him my email. Yeah, help me out.
Well, you could go through in the Data Explorer and compare your responses and see if you got it right or not. It's kind of tedious, but we can come up with a
Hey, thanks for listening. We hope you got something out of the episode today.
After every question, it should
check the show notes in your
shake,
podcast app for all the links and references that were made.
if you hit the wrong.
Or you can find it all at followingthefire.com.
Like when you get your
If you'd like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/followingthefire.
I will. I'll see you later, man.
See ya. And of course, we'd love it if you rate the podcast and share it with others. See you later.
And I'll give you all my heart. Don't you know it's all I have? Even on my heart can't compare with what you're worth. I have been running almost all my life, but you always chase me down.